Welcome back. This video will discuss label modification and editing in HearForm Pro. There may be a number of reasons that you want to modify the text on your labels. So to do so, we're going to click Go to Avery Labels, and then we're going to start with this 5160, 5260 label. Now this looks a little bit small, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can zoom in by pressing the F3 key or coming under View and Zoom in, and you can zoom out with Shift F3. So let me do that a couple of times so we can see it better. I'm also going to click Edit Layout in the upper right hand corner. We need to go into Developer or Layout mode, which will allow me to edit the text. And to do that, when I click that, I have to slide this over just so you can see it within the video window here. This is a series of palettes, tools that may come in handy depending on what you want to do. So there's not a whole lot to modify in this particular label, and that's because this is a series of calculated merge fields. So name, letter, calc, co, and address is calc, address, letter. What they do is they will address the label depending on a preference for that patient. For example, a patient may want to be called Mary Smith or Mrs. Smith, or there may be some third party involved with it, such as a guarantor. So these fields aren't going to be modified much. I'd rather that you don't change them all that much. The same with the addresses. You may have a single street address, you may have two addresses, and you may choose to include the country in your address in your letters or your labels, etc. So there's a lot of calculations going on behind the scenes, so you're not going to change that very much with all that said. But you may want to, for some reason. I'm going to get my text tool here, and I've just locked it, so I'll just show you when I come back to it here. Now it's just gray. If I click it twice, I've locked it. But when I get that text tool, then I can use the cursor and highlight this area here. I didn't do a very good job at it. Let me try it again. Here we go. So I've highlighted this this line here, and I could change the font. Let's come over here and just scroll down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. Right now it's Arial bold and 10 point. You may want to change that, for example, to a smaller size. You generally wouldn't want to change it to white because then you wouldn't see it, but you may want to change it to a different color. Let's say you're sending out Christmas labels or something. I'm just using my imagination here, but you could change that to red and green, for example. And so now you've just made a change in that. So you can change the size or the font or make something italicized, that sort of thing, by using your different styles here, if you can see that off to the far right there. So not a whole lot to do there. I'm going to exit my layout without actually making any changes. So let me go back to my preferences real quick. You wouldn't normally need to do this. I have it set to save automatically, but I suggest that you don't do that, and that way you have the option to exit your layout and not save your change if you make changes that you didn't want to keep. So I'm not going to save my changes there. But that's how you can modify, just real briefly, some information on that 5260 label. I'm going to click Go Back, and then I have to zoom back out again. So now let's go back to the labels area, and I can do the same thing to the 5266 label. We'll take a quick look at that and zoom in, go into layout mode. I pressed Control L, but that's very similar to clicking that Edit Layout button. And again, you have a very simple series of merge fields here, so you're not going to change all that much in this area. So I don't want to save my changes there, and we'll go back. And yet again, let's come here, zoom out, and I will show you that you can, for example, in the return labels, let's go and adjust those, zoom in a little bit, go into layout mode, and this looks a little bit different. What this is doing is pulling in the assigned practice that we want for that patient, or that series of office locations. As you saw earlier, you can print labels for office A, B, C, or D, whatever you want. But an example may be that you don't want to put the phone number on your return address label. So you could remove that rather, or you could change the text to a different color for that, or any number of different variables here. But this is a slightly different look. And if you're going to change sizes, I just want to show you a little trick here. This is let's look over here, size, it's Arial size 10. And I wasn't sure that I could fit all that information on there, so I made everything after that first merge field chevron, or greater than, less than symbol. Then I made that even smaller. So this is actually size 6 font, and that just makes it a little more viewable for me. But it's this first chevron that matters the most as far as size 10, but you could change just that, for example, to a size 11 or something like that. So I'm going to exit the layout, not save my change, and that gives you an overall idea how you can change those Avery labels, and it's very, very similar with the Brother and some of the other standalone labelers that exist. Thanks for watching.